Okay, welcome back everyone. It has just been an absolutely phenomenal start to this video. I was about 40 minutes, 30 minutes into the video, and my camera decided not to save any of it to the memory card, so wonderful. But my plan for this project, as you saw in the description, is to do a super duper amazing epoxy cutting board video. But realistically, what I'm trying to accomplish here is I did a cutting board a while back. I'll try to put some photos of it up here in the corner. And what I ran into is after pouring the epoxy is wherever the epoxy met the wood, there was all these micro bubbles. I don't know why. I know that the wood is going to naturally let air out, but to have that much bubbles leads me to believe that there were a couple things that I did wrong. So I'm hoping to tackle that here in this video. First thing I think I did wrong is I didn't seal the edges along the board. I've talked to a couple other YouTubers and guys on Instagram that do epoxy a ton. They have adamantly said they do not seal their boards. Which then leads me to believe that my other issue was then temperature in the room. When I did it, it was April here in Illinois. So it was, 50, 60 during the day and then like 30s and 40s overnight. So let's say 40s overnight. I think that's when I actually poured. So what I'm going to do is take these boards inside and pour them inside in the basement where I know that temperature is going to be stable no matter what. So I have two boards here. I'm shooting for 16 by 12 and the final boards. I've cut everything to this point for these boards to 16.5 inches. And then the next cut you're gonna see here is me sizing down two of my larger chunks so I can get everything down to 12.5 inches. The other thing I'm going to do as well is I'm gonna keep one as a neutral. I'm going to not seal the edges. I'm just going to do a pour and then brush the edges to make sure I can get kind of as much of those bubbles to pop as naturally as possible. The other board on the meantime, I'm going to seal those edges with some epoxy and then come back with like a wire brush just to kind of scuff it up a little bit and see if there is any difference. And if not, then I will probably be able to discern that it was more temperature that was my problem than it was the surface prep. So that's what I'm hoping to accomplish here. I'd love to do some more of these epoxy boards, stuff like this, but I can't afford to keep screwing them up. That was a very expensive lesson, and that's why I'm following up with this one. This is going to be another expensive lesson, but I'm hoping I can salvage two boards out of this, but we'll see. Okay, so there's a lot that's happened here. I wanted to focus on getting this done, what I'm gonna call right, versus worrying about connecting back with you guys here, figuring I would do a monolith like this. The mold's been made. The wood's been cut down to size. I used tuck tape or Tyvek tape here, or roofing tape, I think is the other stuff you can look for. You get it at the big box store. I'm going to use that as my barrier between the epoxy and the wood. I also have some mold release for some reason. I can't remember why I have that, but I do. But that will be the last thing I do before I put the wood back in. So what I'm going to do is let the epoxy on the one set of boards solidify. I'll give it an hour or so. And then I'll come back out here and get this together here. I'm going to wipe it down one more time, probably with some denaturing alcohol, trying to get as much dust out of here as I can. I do not have a compressor to just blow the air out, so I'm going to do it that way. And then I'll come back and complete the mold. So I'll show you what I got here. I'll try to show you. So I've got the one board in here right now. Okay. This is a movable piece. I don't have any of the countersunk holes like I have on the edges here. So I have countersunk holes here, and then the piece on the far side, and then the one that's going to be there. This one is, I'm going to call it free floating for now. It's pretty tight in there anyways with the pressure. But once I get the silicone caulk in here, this will really lock this into place here. So what I'll do then, I oversize the mold in length here. That would allow me to then bring this piece in and out however I needed it to come in and out, to come up and sneak up on the edge of the board that's been epoxied on the edge. So next steps here is let the epoxy cure that's on the edge. It's just a quick 5-minute epoxy, but it takes a full hour for it to cure. I will then come in here, wipe everything down. I will then come in and drop a bead of that silicone caulking in here, making sure I don't allow it to run up the edges, which is something I ran into last time. I don't want to get that sucked into the epoxy. And then I will come in one more time with some alcohol and get everything set the way that I want it to set. The other thing I'm figuring out right now, and I'm going to do it closer to when we get to it, is I want to do a black epoxy coming through the center. So black coming through here. And I want to put just a little bit of pigment in it. I think I'm going to do different pigments in it. I'm going to do like maybe a red and like a green. Just so when you change the angle on the board a little bit, you can get kind of that color. And I want it just to be subtle. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do one green and maybe one red, or I'll see what colors I have. But it's going to be black liquid with a little bit of this flake that is floating in the epoxy. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm just going to let everything sit and cure and come back in a little bit. That's all I can do. So this is the one with the pink pigment. Again, it doesn't really show well, at least on the camera here, but you can see, or I can see, that there's no micro bubbles in here at all. That's the back side. That was the pink one is this is the control where I didn't run any epoxy across the edges beforehand. And then the blue one is the one where I epoxied the edges and let that dry. So that was the fast, 5-minute cure epoxy. And I'm not seeing any micro bubbles here either. The light I have right here is kind of skewing this, but the blue color shows a lot better in this board than it does in that pink one. But I have the two boards sanded through 120. I'm not seeing any bubbling or micro bubbles here. Actually, there's a couple right there. I lied. There's some right there. But otherwise, it's clean. It's only really kind of one spot that I'm seeing it here. I had one other spot on the board here where there's just a kind of a bubble in the middle here. That's easily cleaned up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill that one spot that's in the middle of the board. The other side where I just saw a couple of those micro bubbles, I'm going to dig those out. And then in digging those out, I'm going to come back with some clear CA glue because I'm never going to match this color, so I might as well try to get it as clear as possible to try to have it mask its way into there. Other than that, I'm going to get some water on these boards, start to pop the grains, let it dry, and then come back to it. Other thing I did off camera was just get everything down to final dimensions. So I'm 12 inches across and 16 inches in width here. And then what I'll do is pop the grains, come back with a 120. At that point, what I'm going to do is get the router table out, run off my edges, and then I'm going to put my juice grooves in here, and then I'm going to run everything up to 600. And then I do have some like plastic polish that I think I may run on the epoxy here. I haven't used that before, so I don't know if I want to or not yet. But I may also, I do have some really high grit, 800, 1000 grit that I could attach to the end of my drill, that I may just use that on the epoxy here. So I'm still trying to figure this out. Want to just see kind of what's the best way to approach this. So while this wood is drying, I literally may just go to YouTube and see how people are polishing and making that stuff as clear as possible. So that's what I'm gonna do next here. I'm gonna I'm gonna fix out these bubbles, water it, let it dry, and come back at it. So that's what I'm gonna do next. Okay, so I am wrapping up this video. Super happy with how both of these boards came out. The control came out well with some minor micro bubbles, which I dug out with like a V-groove chisel, and just did some clear CA glue in there, and it masked up and blended it perfectly. There's no issues at all. The one where I did the 5-minute epoxy on there, I had no issues at all on that. So in the future, if I do more epoxy pours like this, if I have 5-minute epoxy, I definitely will paint the edges. If I don't, I won't. I think the big key takeaway here is that I poured it in the basement, had a nice level temperature for it to set up in while it was curing. I think that's the key takeaway here. I do apologize. I've had nothing but camera issues with this camera that I have here. I don't want to name names because I don't want to disparage anyone here, but getting this camera on the last 2 videos here to convert the filming onto the memory card after I've formatted the memory card several times, it just, like, it's 1 in every 3 shots that actually goes through. So it's been a little pain in the butt to get this to go properly. But I'll show you some reveals here of the boards, and hope you guys like it. Like always, if you like the video, hit like. If you dislike, dislike, comment below, and then subscribe for more. And always make sure you hit that bell for notifications for when more videos come out. I'm trying to do more and more videos, just doing it as much as I can, but I do have a regular full-time job, and sometimes it just doesn't allow me to do it. But either way, here's the 2 boards. This is, again, they're both 16 by 12 by 1 inch in thickness here. They both have that handle into the side here, and then the juice groove on both sides. This is the board that was the control here. My only regret with this board is that pink pigment that I use, I just didn't use enough of. You can get it if you get it at just the right angle to kind of see it in there, but it just doesn't come through the way I wanted it to. I want it to be subtle, but not invisible, and it's more or less invisible. Where on the other hand, with this blue one, again, 16 by 12 by 1 inch with the handles on both sides, and then both sides here. That blue, if I can get you a good angle, kind of had one right there. That blue comes out real nicely in here, and it's at that subtle level where I was happy with it. It's there, but it's not smacking you in the face, which is what I was looking for. But again, had a great time building these, and I'm going to continue to push out more content like this in the future. So thanks again. I hope you made it this far, and catch you on the next video.